Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my UFC Fight Night 38 Shogun versus Henderson predictions, and it happens on the event happens on March 23rd. Overall, I like the main event. I kind of like the other fights, I guess. I mean, there's some good fights here, you know. Jorgensen's fighting, Brandao's fighting, Ronny Jason, Fabio Maldonado has fun fights. Cezar Mutant, you know, there's some good fights. There's some decent prospects here. Some UFC newcomers that could do stuff. Lahat, or Noad, Lahat, Hans Stringer, you know. Hey, Thiago Brandao fighting. He's really fun. So there's definitely some fun fights here. Decent. They have those like non-blue chip prospects on here, you know, that I mentioned a couple times. Cezar Ferreira and Cezar Mutant. Norman Parke, you know, he's not like this crazy blue chip prospect, but he's a good prospect. A lot of those type of guys on this card. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so we have Dan Henderson and Mauricio Rua doing a rematch. Their like fight of the year. Well, Dan Henderson has a 29-11 record, 13 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. He also has 3 losses by submission. He's 43 years old. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He trains at Team Quest. With Shogun, he has a 22-8 record, 19 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO, 3 losses by submission, and he's 32 years old. One thing to really note about this fight is that this will be the last TRT exemption, or TUE, that will be issued to a UFC fighter, as Dan Henderson will be on TRT for this fight. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, so I don't know how much that's going to really help him. But yeah, you know, when they first fought, I mean, it was Dan Henderson getting the win. I personally thought it was a draw. Around rounds 4 and 5, they're both really gassed. Henderson especially. I think since then, Henderson has, you know, he fought like, who did he fight? Like Machida, Shad Evans, Vitor. He lost to the top guys, which isn't so bad, but you know, it's hard to pick for Dan Henderson for me just because of how much mileage he has. But at the same time, it's also hard for me to pick Shogun because of how much fight mileage he has. However, Shogun looked good against James Tahuna in his last bout, proving a lot of people, including myself, wrong, that he still indeed does have it in him. Stylistically, I mean, Dan Henderson's always got the right hand. He did manage to hit Shogun with it a couple times. It says something about Shogun's defense, or lack thereof. You know, Henderson has 1-punch KO power. He is good offensive wrestling. He's actually shown some pretty weak takedown defense throughout his whole MMA career, to be honest with you. It's not like you can take him down with super ease, but a good amount of his opponents have been able to take him down. But he is good in the clinch as well. Mauricio Rua, you know, heavy-handed guy. He has a good Muay Thai, but he's electing to box a lot these days. He has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Once again, he tends to stand with his opponent a lot. And, you know, has a particularly good leg locks. One thing to note, I believe it's in the 3rd round of their bout, Shogun was dropped, and actually what helped him was he fished for a leg lock and went for it, and kind of used the leg lock as a way to get back to his feet and get out of trouble. That's really hard for me to call. I picked Shogun last time, and I didn't get it right, but like I said, I think as of late, Shogun's still looks like he still kind of has it as of late. Yeah, but even then, it's hard to ignore past performances. He didn't look great against Brandon Vera. I mean, it was a fun fight, a wild brawl, but he took a lot of damage in that fight. Gustafsson, it's obvious that he's getting older. His power's still there. Henderson, though. One thing about Henderson, he's getting older, but he's looking slower. He still has the power, though. So, it's tough to say in his knocked out for the first time. He lost by TKO for the very first time in his career against Vitor Belfort in his last bout. He didn't really stay down for a long period of time, though, but he did get dropped multiple times. I'm going to go with Mauricio Shogun Rua to win this one. I think there's just so much mileage. I mean, both of them have a lot of mileage, but I think I'm basing it a lot on Dan Henderson just being a lot older, a lot slower, kind of looking his age a lot more than Shogun. Okay, next fight after that, CB Dollaway fights Cezar Mutanch Ferreira. CB Dollaway has a 13-5 record, 5 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO and 2 losses by sub. He's 30 years old, training out of Power MMA along the likes of Ryan Bader and Aaron Simpson and Seth Baczynski. I want to say Darian Caldwell trains there as well. He's a good wrestler with really good top control. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is actually pretty solid. I think it's Joe Dirksen where he went for those rolling guillotine. That was pretty neat. His stand-up's actually greatly improving. Watch the Tim Bosch fight. A fight that I thought he won. Actually, greatly improving stand-up, but his cardio is not very good. Cezar Mutanch Ferreira, 7-2 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. He's 29 years old, on a 3-fight win streak, training out of the Blackzilians. He's big for 185 pounds, has a capoeira background with strong kicks. His boxing, though, isn't that great. I mean, I'd say his hands are average. He has a tendency, I mean, even Sergio Moraes was able to counter him. When he's punching, he can get countered. It still doesn't look super comfortable. His kicks still look really good. And his wrestling is improving. You saw that against Daniel Serafian. And his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is good as well as a really strong guillotine. So it's hard for me to call. I gotta admit, CB Dollaway is a very good prospect killer. He's just one of those guys that can use wrestling to stifle offense a lot of times. He can lose, very much lose. He's still hittable. He has shown to be susceptible to guillotines in the past. His cardio's not that great. And Cezar Mutanch, like I said, he's a prospect. He has less than 10 fights, but he's not an excellent pro. He's not that blue chip prospect, where he's a good prospect, but not like a Justin Scoggins is right now, or Gunnar Nelson, where he's totally outclassing opponents and looking really good in the process. I mean, I watched Cezar Mutanch's last fight against Daniel Serafian. I mean, he more or less just wrestled and grinded his way to victory. It wasn't like a super impressive performance. Even against Sergio Moraes, I mean, you know, he looked good. He even knocked him down, but you know, he hasn't looked great at times. On the show, he's looked great a couple times, but other times he hasn't looked like super great. I'm actually kind of tempted to go with CV Dollaway here, to be perfectly honest with you. Just because I know that he, you know, when he fought like Serafian, for example, it was like mayhem. I mean, the guy's just able to use his wrestling a lot of times. He uses top control to stifle opponents. He has some pretty tricky stand-up. You know, it's like, because you don't expect it to be that good, and then he'll catch you with something. You know, he catch Serafian with like a knee or an uppercut when it was coming in, or like against Bosch, where it's just super improved. But I'm gonna go Cezar Mutant. I mean, he has a better striking, and he is improving his wrestling. At Blackzilians too. He's at Blackzilians, so it's Vita Wrestling's under Kenny Monday, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna Cezar Mutant to win this one, but very hesitant to pick him. And quite honestly, a lot of these picks on this card, it's probably a good amount of close fights here, you know. A couple of tough picks, to be sure. Okay, next fight after that, Norman Parke fights Leonardo Santos. Leonardo Santos has not fought since the whenever the finals were for the Ultimate Fighter Season 2, or Brazil Season 2 finale. Santos has a 12-3 record with 1 win by KO, 8 wins by sub. He's 34 years old on a 6-fight win streak, training out of Nova União. He is a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but his stand-up, I mean, not that great. I don't even consider it a bit below average. It's just not that great. His wrestling, his takedown game is just kind of as well. Norman Parke, you know, just a guy that has a pretty good win streak. Has a 19-2 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 12 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission. 27 years old on a 9-fight win streak, training out of Alliance. Showing to be pretty decent. You know, he has good stand-up, uses combinations. He's not the hardest hitting guy, but he will wear you down. And he does have solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Very solid fighter. Not exactly a standout, you know. But he's a very good, you know, he's good, you know. Good but not good everywhere, but not great anywhere type of guy. With that said, I'll go with Norman Parke to win that one. Next fight after that, Fabio Maldonado fights Gian Villante. Gian Villante has an 11-4 record of 7 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. Thus has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 28 years old, training out of Belmore Kickboxing Academy. Another guy that trains there would be Ryan LaFleur. He does have some solid kickboxing and actually some decent wrestling as well, both offensively and defensively. Fabio Maldonado, 20-6 record, 12 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission, 33 years old, on a 2-fight win streak. He has good offensive boxing, but some terrible defense. This is a guy that will get himself into his opponents like Ty Plum, get kneed, and his defense against it is punching the dude's body. The guy, like, seriously, like, just takes multiple punches to the chin. The guy has a really good chin, though. I mean, just unbelievably good chin. But yeah, he has some terrible defense. He's a strong body puncher. He uses combinations. One thing he likes to do, and he does it really well, is he'll get an opponent against a cage and just start teeing off. similar to what like Nick Diaz does. And he is good at getting back to his feet when he's taken down as well. This one's close because, like I said, he has such bad defense. Like, he'll probably get a lot of good strikes in on Villante, and Villante will probably get a lot of good strikes on him as well. With that said, I'll go Fabio Maldonado to win this one. Fun guy to watch. Can very well lose the fight because, he wants like the Kingsbury fight, the Igor for Kryak fight, and think like he probably won. It's like a lot of people think he should have won, but the fact of the matter is the other guy gets so many good hits on him that it doesn't exactly exude confidence that if it goes to the scorecards that Maldonado will win the fight. This fight could definitely be the case. I'll still go with Fabio Maldonado to win this one. Next fight is that Michel. Is it Michel? I think it's Michel Prazeres fights Mairbek Taisumov. Prazeres has a 17-1 record. 1 win by TKO, 8 wins by sub. He's 30 years old. He's a good wrestler with strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good top control. Taisumov has a 21-4 record. 10 wins by KO TKO, 9 wins by sub. He's 25 years old on a 4-fight win streak. He has good stand-up, and he actually has some good wrestling himself. I will have to go with Mairbek Taisumov to win this one. I think that he has the better stand-up than Prazeres. I think he'll be able to defend his takedowns as well. I don't know if he'll be able to get his own takedowns, but like I said, he's another one of those. He has a lot of experience, but he's only 25, so I'd say he's still a prospect. He's a solid prospect. Like I said, good stand-up, good wrestling. I'll go with Mairbek Taisumov to win that one. Next fight is that Jorgensen fights Steven Siler. Steven Siler has a 23-11 record, 3 wins by KO TKO, 13 wins by sub. He also has 4 losses by KO TKO and 5 losses by sub. He's 27 years old, training out of Pit Elevated. He does have some solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. He's a good scrambler, and his stand-up is improving, as shown with his knockout over Mike Thomas Brown. Jorgensen, 13-4 record. 4 wins by KO TKO, 8 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO. Most recently getting head kicked by Jeremy Stevens and knocked out by that. He's 29 years old, training out of Team Nogueira and Pitbull Brothers. Something of a brawler, but he does have solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills as well. I have to go with Jorgensen here. It's a winnable fight for him. I think he can do well in the stand-up against Siler. Siler's that guy that always surprises me, though. I mean, he's just that guy. Usually on the undercard. Even in loss, he fights well. Always in the fight. Like against like Bermudez, for example, or even when he fought like Elkins, he he's always in the fight. He has solid skills in most areas. Not really stand out per se, but I think Jorgensen, I think he can match or is at least better in a lot of areas of MMA than Siler. Like even on the ground, I kind of favor Jorgensen. In the stand-up, it's a bit like I'd still, Jason, he does brawl. I still kind of have to go with him as far as having like superior stand-up as well. So Jorgensen for the win there. Okay, on to the prelim card. Brandao fights Will Chope. I think the prelims are. This is one of those weird ones where the main card, it's 6 fights. It's on Fox Sports 1. The prelims are also on Fox Sports 1. And then there's like 2 Fight Pass fights. So Will Chope has a 19-6 record. 4 wins by KO TKO, 12 wins by sub. He also has 3 losses by KO TKO and 3 losses by sub. He's only 23 years old, and the guy is 6'4". Still not the greatest at using his reach. He does have some decent stand-up. He has good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Max Holloway most recently won by TKO against him. Diego Brandao has an 18-9 record, 9 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. He also has 5 losses by KO TKO, and he's 26 years old. The thing is, he most recently got knocked out by Dustin Poirier, and he was badly overweight, if I'm not mistaken. I think he threatened to like stab Dustin Poirier in the eye in the weigh-ins or something to that nature. He trains out of Jackson's. He has some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Stand-up's really reckless, but he does have heavy hands. Super aggressive guy that pushes forward all the time. His wrestling is improving. His cardio is very bad. With that said, I mean, Diego Brandao, he did fight like Pablo Garza. Did really well. Used his wrestling to take him down. He used his superior Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills to get the arm triangle. I don't know how it'll go on the feet for Brandao. I think he'll be able to close distance, to be honest with you, using his aggressive nature and his forward pressure. Might even just get to use his wrestling, because he does have legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. And might be... I can see him doing what he did to Pablo Garza. Possibly. Where he just like wrestled him, moved to dominant position, got an arm triangle, got the win. I think Brandao's a better wrestler. The stand-up's just interesting because the guy's so tall. I don't really know what Brandao's gonna do. He might just wing punches at his head. Might be able to get in there and connect. It's tough to say. But yeah, I'll go with Diego Brandao to win that one. Okay, next fight that, Ronny Marks fights Thiago Marreta Santos. Thiago Marreta Santos, he has an 8-2 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. He's 30 years old. The only thing I remember about him, was that he got badly outclassed by Cezar Mutanch. Honestly, I can't really say much about him, to be perfectly honest with you. Ronny Marks, he has a 14-2 record, 5 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub. He's 25 years old. Training out of Nova União Kimura. He's big for 185, and he is a grinder. He does have some good wrestling, some excellent top control. He can, once you get someone down, he's really good at staying on top. Kind of a lay-and-pray guy. Stand-up's actually not too bad when he gets to show it. Sometimes he just doesn't show it though, but it's actually not too bad. Most recently got knocked out by Yoel Romero. Actually managed to take him down. Romero's actually shown to be, despite having Olympic level wrestling, you know, in MMA, he's shown to actually be takedownable. But like I said, he got to show some of his stand-up, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, he did get knocked out, of course. Yoel Romero tends to do that to people. Nonetheless, I gotta go with Ronny Marks to win this one. I think, especially if he uses wrestling top control, we can get the win over Santos. Next fight after that, we got Jussier Formiga fighting Scott Jorgensen. Jorgensen has a 14-8 record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission. He's 31 years old on a 2-fight losing streak, and he's actually only won 1 of his last 5 fights. You know, so we'll see how it goes. He's been generally competitive though, most recently losing to Zach Makovsky. He is a good wrestler with some good ground and pound. strong front chokes, good into scrambles, average stand-up. You know, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. Jussier Formiga has a 15-3 record, 7 wins by sub, 8 wins by decision. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO to Dodson and Benavides, if I'm not mistaken. He's 20 years old, training out of Nova União Kimura. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Some really good top control. He showed that against Chris Carriasso. Striking isn't the greatest though. Problem with Formiga is he is very much a specialist. But being a specialist in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, unless you're like Maya, and even if you're Damian Maya, Maya is very good at taking opponents down. So you can even say Maya is like more two-dimensional in that he can wrestle really well. But it's hard to be a specialist these days in the UFC, where you're just a Jiu-Jitsu guy. And that's kind of Jussier Formiga. Scott Jorgensen, relatively well-rounded guy. Definitely more well-rounded for Formiga. I'll go with Scott Jorgensen to win this one. Okay, next fight after that, Kenny Robertson fights Thiago Brandao, Perpetuo. Kenny Robertson has a 12-3 record, 3 wins by KO TKO, 8 wins by sub. He's 30 years old. He's a good wrestler with some good top control. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is pretty solid as well. He did go over, I think it was against like Brock Jardine, where he got that crazy like leg lock. Stand-up's kind of average. I believe it was like Sean Pearson, and it was like he fought Sean Pearson in his last fight. You know, couldn't really get his wrestling going against him. It's getting beat up on the feet, so I'd say it's average. You know, it's not bad, but it's average. Thiago Brandao Perpetuo, 9-2 record with 1 draw, 7 wins by KO TKO and 1 win by sub. He's 27 years old. It will be his first cut to 170 pounds. The guy was humongous as like 185, so I'm actually really surprised he's cutting to 170. He had a lot of muscle though. I mean, a lot of muscle. You know, he most recently got knocked out by Omari Akhmadov in middleweight. Thing to note is actually I thought he was doing really well. He ran into the punch that knocked him out, which goes with his style. He's a brawler. That's the thing. He takes hits. Defensively, he's not that great, but he does have some heavy hands, and he's always pushing forward and really aggressive. You know, it's unfair for me to say who's going to win. I can see Kenny Robertson actually using his wrestling to win the fight. If he gets into crazy brawls with Perpetuo, I'll actually go with Perpetuo to win that one. I wonder about the weight cut, but the size difference, man. That guy's going to be so huge. I'm tempted to go with Thiago Brandao Perpetuo to win this one. Kenny Robertson could win this one. You know, he's just a guy that solid skill set. Perpetuo though, like a heavy-handed guy. Grappling wise, I remember in the Ultimate Fighter Brazil wasn't too bad. I remember he had really good ground and pound, but that was on top. I don't remember it too much defensively or how his game was off its back. Regardless, I'll go with Thiago Brandao Perpetuo to win that one. Okay, on to the Fight Pass prelims. Noad Lahat fights Godofredo Pepe. Here's the thing with Pepe, man. 9-3 record, 3 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO. He's 26 years old on a 2-fight losing streak. That losing streak were ground and pound finishes. I mean, he's finished by Sam Cecilia, and before that, guy whose name escapes me, but Brazilian guy always wears a cowboy hat. Forgot his name, but you know, one thing that it shows about Pepe, he's really susceptible to ground and pound. I mean, this guy just does not defend his face when he's on his back, and he's a guy that elects to pull guard a couple times. He does have some solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. His stand-up's kind of It's just alright. Noad Lahat, 7-0, undefeated record. 2 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub. He's training out of AKA. He's actually an Israeli-born fighter. I believe he has a Krav Maga background. It is his first fight in the UFC, so we'll see how that goes. The video I saw from him, though, I saw him against Chad Smith in Bama. So it's his most previous fight. Really good trips. I really like his takedown game. And when the guy's trying to get back to his feet, he'll actually pull the guy's leg with an ankle pick or something to get him back down. His top control is really good, too. I mean, he can stay on top of opponents really well. His striking, solid. You know, nothing spectacular, but, you know, solid. I saw him use a push kick. Showed a 1-2. Kind of overextends himself on the strikes. But, for the most part, solid, you know. I liked more what I saw with, like, the trip takedowns and whatnot. I'll go with the newcomer, Neo Lahat, to win that one. And finally, Francimar Barroso fights Hans Stringer. Barroso has a 16-3 record, 8 wins by KO TKO, 6 wins by sub. He also has 3 losses by KO TKO. He's 34 years old on a 4-fight win streak, training out of Nova União. I remember his last fight against Leonardo Oliveira vaguely. You know, I remember, like, he won a pretty hard-fought victory. It was very not that great. I think they both gassed out, but I think Barroso may have taken the fight on short notice. I remember he was using, like, leg kicks wall, if I'm not mistaken, and he was threatening with takedowns. Besides that, like, I remember not coming off super impressed with the guy, to be honest with you. Hans Stringer, 21-5 record with 3 draws, 9 wins by KO TKO, 8 wins by sub. He's 26 years old, training out of Black Zillions. It is his first fight in the UFC. Most recently, he fought Francisco France in the World Series of Fighting, and he fought to a draw. He was actually on his way to win, but he got, like, multiple nut shots. Well, he inflicted multiple nut shots on his opponent, and that's really why it became a draw. He's getting into clinch. He's something of a grinder with some decent ground and pound. Training out of Black Zillions, I gotta wonder what type of improvement he's gonna make. Like I said, one thing about the Black Zillions that they really do help with is striking. Most fighters coming out of the Black Zillions, I tend to notice much improved striking from them. So with that said, I'll go with Hans Stringer to win that one. Okay, to recap the main card, I got Mauricio Rua over Dan Henderson, Cezar Mutants Ferreira beating CB Dollaway, Norman Parke over Leonardo Santos, Fabio Maldonado over Gian Villante, Mairbek Taisumov beating Michel Prazeres, and Ronny Jason beating Steven Siler. On the prelims for Fox Sports 1, Brandao. I have Diego Brandao over, well, Chope. Honey Marks beating Thiago Marreta Santos. Scott Jorgensen over Jussier Formiga. And Thiago Badao Perpetuo over Kenny Robertson. On the Fight Pass prelims, I got Noad Lahat beating Godofredo Pepe. And Hans Stringer over Francimar Barroso. So that's it for my predictions for UFC Fight Night 38, Shogun versus Henderson 2. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.